privacy. European Convention on Human Rights was born out of the ashes of World War II. It was a reminder of what we were before World War II. It's a keystone of social reconstruction within Europe, and the right to privacy existed in order to ensure that people can live with the knowledge that they're not constantly being monitored. It was born out of situations such as secret police, spying within government and covert operations. What Form are trying to do with this technology is they're trying to turn people into products. Essentially what we're doing is we're creating a global warehouse selling pieces of us to the highest bidders. And then this information is then used to sell us products. But what are we getting back from it? Many of the information, the press releases that have come through from Form and from ISPs and the people that are trying to support Form keep going on about this web-wise product, this anti-phishing product. It's a product that many of the population see as redundant. It exists in technologies such as web browsers, i.e. The latest Internet Explorer has anti-phishing devices. Operating systems themselves have anti-phishing technologies. Antivirus technologies have anti-phishing technologies. They're all around us. Plugins for Firefox have anti-phishing technologies. So what are we actually getting back? I mean, all these technologies take place on the client. So there's no interception, there's no technology which can be used to the extent that this layer 7 technology, which has been described by Dr. Richard Clayton in his review, which just seems to go too far. It goes too deep, it's too intrusive. Now I was asked to talk about the key issues as the public see it. I've been heavily involved with public debates on this issue over the last 2 months. I'm writing a dissertation on the legal aspects. I'm not going to discuss that. I think Richard's discussed that already in quite significant detail. The key issues that we see within the general public is, firstly, trust. We've got a situation with BT covert trials, which are now rumoured to have reached 108,000 or more people over 2 terms, in 2006 and 2007, without ever asking or obtaining consent to do this. We've also got situations with, and I'll quote Form here, an overzealous PR team editing Wikipedia articles to remove pertinent information that's been put in there and has been deemed as accurate, such as The Guardian ending their partnership with Form based on how they feel it will affect their brand. Also, there's a lot of concern over the potential for the use of the technology and the potential for function creep. Nobody can deny that the Layer 7 technology is capable of literally doing anything it wishes to the data that was within the network stream. It can alter the data, it can redirect the data. There's really nothing it can't do. It can insert JavaScript adds into the data, such as it did in the 2007 trials, as has been reported significantly on the web. Then we've got this user agent disclosure. I was quite dismayed to read Dr. Clayton's report on this, and to see that he'd been told that they were not going to extend what the user agent is that they're using. Now surely if we're going to have an opt-in situation here for websites to be able to opt in and say we either want Form or we don't want Form to be able to access our systems, then we need to know the user agent. You can't simply refuse to give it to them and assume that because they allow Google to read their website, that they allow you to do the same thing. Then we've got Form's history. Now I'm not going to go into name calling, I'm not going to discuss situations regarding one-to-one media, but the general public have a distrust for the history of Form based on their previous activities in the adware industry. The last 12 months also in the UK has raised tremendous public awareness with regards to privacy issues. We've had situations with the tax office losing CDs, DVLA losing information in America, the MOD losing laptops. I mean, this news seems to hit us on an almost bi-weekly basis of some more information being lost that's affecting millions and millions of people's privacy within the UK. So at a time where public awareness on privacy issues is at its highest in any of my recollection, we've got a company that's now saying, well, we're going to use your privacy in order to make ourselves money and give you something which already exists in systems that are nowhere near as intrusive as the system we're proposing. So it all comes down to the public perception at the end of the day. The public perception that I've seen is they find it offensive for for form to assume they have the right to profile them. Whether or not the data is anonymised or not is irrelevant. People simply don't want it. They do not wish to be profiled. They want their communications to be free of interception and free of tampering, irrespective of the purpose. And that should be respected. There is no perceivable benefit to the customers. Nobody that I've spoken to has seen any perceivable benefit from this web-wise anti-phishing technology, which is being used to try and promote the other side of this service which we're offering. So in conclusion, I just want to say, because something's possible, it doesn't make it right. Irrespective of whether there's any perceived or illustrated harm being caused, it doesn't make it right. The Information Commissioner himself has suggested that we're sleepwalking into a surveillance society, which is a serious situation. We've got CCTV, we've got biometric passports, we've got biometric identity cards, we've got biometric systems in schools, fingerprinting school children for their lunch money or for getting a book out of the library. We've got vehicle tracking that's being proposed by the current government in order to track our every movement in our cars using existing camera systems and adding new technologies to it. We've got gait recognition taking place in airports. We've got facial recognition taking place at ATM terminals. The situation, we're just completely crushed by this oppressive need to monitor and see absolutely everything in the society. And the fact that there aren't 300 people here tonight is nothing to do with people not caring. It's simply to do with the fact that people are overwhelmed. They feel powerless. They feel that no matter what they do, nothing's going to happen. If DVLA can lose details on 27 million people, then what are we going to do about a company? You know, if the government can get away with this, if the government can be seen to be setting an example where data protection doesn't matter, then what honest truth can the public believe that they can achieve in demonstration or in attempting to fix the situation? My opinion is that the form system needs to be explicitly opt-in. This has been defined by the Information Commissioner himself that it needs to be explicitly opt-in. The laws that I've read over the past 6 to 7 weeks also say the same thing. It needs to be explicitly opt-in. But more importantly than not, it's a human right. It's a fundamental human right. And any fundamental human right should receive the sort of explicit consent that everybody's asking for. You can't take implied consent on a human right. The right is already set there in stone. It's there, and you can't take it away by simply changing the terms and conditions, which you know that people aren't going to read. It's immoral. It's irresponsible. You can't take advantage of people not reading the terms and conditions in order to profit from that.
Yeah.
Furthermore, consent must not be determined by the deep packet inspection that we're seeing as described by Dr. Richard Clayton. You can't break the law inspecting data, intercepting data, and making operations on that data as defined under the Data Protection Act to find out if you have permission to do this. It's illogical. You can't break the law to find out if you're allowed to process this data. It simply doesn't make any sense. I can't walk into a bank, take a lot of money out of their safe, and then say, oh, can I really do this? It just doesn't make sense. Furthermore, we really have to look at this user agent situation. We have to remember both sides of this coin. We have to remember the content providers, the website owners, the people that send communications via webmail and so on and so forth. And we have to be able to find a way to determine whether or not form have permission from those providers to access this information in the way that they're planning to do so. There's many websites out there, Amazon.com, one that we probably all know of, being a prime example of this, explicitly state in their terms and conditions that their data may not be copied or processed for the purpose of commercial gain. How are form going to be able to detect these situations if they're just going to accept that if there's a robot text file there that says Google can search it, then they can search it too. When we've got explicit denial of consent in terms and conditions, it has to be upheld. And that's all I've got to say. I'm willing to take any